bad mistake from Nick. He'll understand that he has to improve the ball at his feet. But if you look at that picture, he can stick in Haaland as well, who's clean through on goal as well. So it's one they got away with there, I think.
And at the other end, as you say, Ederson wasn't tested until right at the end. How good a save's this?
It's a brilliance. He just touches it and then swivels, you know, to get it onto his left foot, and that is a magnificent save, and that's the only time they've troubled that goal. Having said that, it's a great effort, but an equally brilliant save from Ederson.
Yeah, it's a strong hand. I mean, it comes at him so quick, Steve. It's a brilliant save. The only thing I would say from Newcastle, I'm disappointed is their set plays. We watched them last week against Arsenal. Arsenal caused them all sorts of problems on the set plays. I think Trippier's hit the front man, Haaland, 2 or 3 times. Why not just do it?
Shea for 10 years at Newcastle. Did you ever see him do what Ederson did with the ball in the...
Ability and the confidence to do that, it won't affect him at all. And please, Nick Pope's not doing that at the other end.
He used to do that on the dance floor back in the day, didn't he, Shea?
Look at Pep. Looks like he was on the dance floor last night. I was thinking, if that goes wrong, I think Pep will be a lot angrier than that. But Ederson will be no so cool on the ball.
Some concern from Manchester City about Erling Haaland. We saw after that challenge with Dan Burn, he's been over to the physio, and they were concerned about him carrying on in the first half.
Yeah, I mean, I think this was an accident from Dan Burn. You can see there he goes on top with his right foot on the top of the left ankle of Haaland there, but he's just trying to get them. Great strength from Haaland, but I think there's a good physical battle going.
The shift that they put in today, they defended really well and denied them spaces in midfield, and it's a fair point, I think.
I think when you look at the situation Newcastle are in without one of their best players in Isak, with being beaten last weekend at Fulham, with not quite hitting the heights to what they have done last season and the season before in terms of an energy and overpowering teams, I think that was much more like it today. I thought they had the energy, they pressed certainly from the front. They didn't sit back, they didn't want to soak up pressure and then try and hit City on the break. They tried to attack Manchester City. So I think it was much better from Newcastle.
And limited, really. I know, as Anna says, Nick Pope made a great save at the end, but limited Manchester City in that second half.
Very few chances, and even, you know, we're talking about a collector's item, and Haaland with a header, like a rare chance towards the end, which was a simple save for Nick Pope, you know. And I think when any team keeps the likes of Haaland and, you know, Grealish and Silva and the likes quiet, you know, you've done something right as a team, as a setup. And I suppose after the Fulham game last week, when you look at the Newcastle point of view, it's a perfect game to come back home to St James's Park against the champions. Everyone has to really put a top performance in, you know, with and without the ball. It wasn't a top performance, but it was a decent performance, especially from a defensive side of things. I thought they were very solid today, Newcastle.
Yep, Manchester City still the last team to win a game in the Premier League at St James's Park back in June. That's the big talking point. Pep didn't think so. Anthony Gordon dispatched it 1-1 at St James's. Everybody
ever getting anywhere near that ball, because he realises, I think, and he somehow, I mean, if there is a touch, it's a tiny touch, and he initiates the touch, Gordon, because of such as he's onside, there's no doubt about it, but that touch to go past Ederson is he realises it's going too far away from him, and then all of a sudden he thinks, uh-oh, how do I now turn this into try and get contact? Watch his right boot. He then flicks that right boot out there to get the contact. So I think Newcastle got really lucky there. I didn't think it was a penalty at all. OK. Shea, put yourself in Ederson's shoes from the goalkeeper's point of view.
Well, I think Al's explained it really well, to be honest, Steve. I think when
try and turn this into a penalty. So many players do it. So many players try and initiate the contact when they go around that. He's not getting that ball.
So therefore,
there's no doubt about it.
When they say he's denying a clear goal-scoring opportunity, is it a clear goal-scoring opportunity
if
he's not getting the ball?
He's not getting the ball. He might get to the ball before it goes out, but he's not getting to the ball to put it in. Therefore, his second thought is, oh, I've had such a poor touch. How am I going to turn this or try and turn it into a penalty if the goalkeeper hasn't touched it? So then he's got to try and flick his right foot out. So many players do it. We've seen it all the time, and we'll see another 10 or 20 this season with players doing that. That is not scoring from that position. Therefore, within a split second, to try and turn it into a penalty scenario, whereas he then has got to initiate the contact, and you can see the little flick of the right boot, and if there's any contact from Ederson, it's minimal, but it's because Gordon tries to get the touch from Ederson because he knows he's not getting the ball. I've been in that situation.
think there's a picture where Ederson jumps up to the referee there as well and points to his head as if like he's actually kicked him in the head. I think he's looking for that. Alan's right. He's flicked his right leg out and he's looking for it. Look, it's just frustrating, I think, and it'd be interested to see what Pep says after the game, but it's frustrating because whatever, the bar's changed this season said referee's decision, unless it's clear and obvious, we can't change it in VAR, but I think the decision has to be the right decision. Be that the referee on the pitch makes that decision or the people upstairs, they have to come to the right decision. And you want, if I don't call it whatever word you want, say he's tricked the officials there. With VAR, you shouldn't be allowed to trick them at all. The pictures are clear to see, Steve, in my opinion, that's not a penalty.
Has Shea got a point? Stuart Atwell's had a look at that and agreed with the on-field decision.
I mean, we've heard them say it's going to be a really, really high bar.
About consistency, it's not consistent. If there was a one penalty, them two, it's definitely the second incident. But they've said no.
What'll happen is after the game, you'll speak to the players and you'll speak to the managers. Pep will say he never thinks it's a penalty, and Eddie will say, but who's going to blink first? And he sets himself up as if he's going to go to Ederson's left hand, just whips it to his right-hand side. And it was a cool penalty under big pressure.
Yeah, it was a cool penalty because don't forget they had to wait as well for everyone to complain to the referee and they're trying to sort of delay the penalty kick. And the crowd are expecting as well St James's Park for him to stick it away, and that takes a lot of pressure. And again, he's a player who's high in confidence. You've seen the banner before the game. The fans love Anthony Gordon in Newcastle, and they'll love him more after today.
They gave him something in that role today, though, didn't they? In the absence of Wilson and Isaac.
No, he's a threat. There's no doubt about it. He's a threat in that position because of his energy, because of his pace. He's really clever. What Newcastle didn't help him and help themselves in terms of today was they got into some really good positions. But whether it was him not in the middle or them not delivering the right ball into whoever was in there, that's what sort of didn't help Newcastle today. But in terms of him being a centre forward, he's good in that. He's good at that job.
Now, as you keep telling me, it wasn't just Alan's goals in your career that won you points, it was Newcastle saves. And there was a very good one very late on from Nick Pope, wasn't
it? Yeah, it's amazing because Nick didn't have a lot to do today, Steve, but his concentration levels, any young goalkeepers watching in the Premier League, the save at the last, this is an injury time, nearly last kick of the game, his concentration levels, again, to be honest, it's a save I'd expect him to make. But since he's been there, Nick Pope, he's been absolutely brilliant. A really bargain signing when you see some of the transfer fees going around. He made probably one of his very few mistakes last week against Fulham.
Produce a really good save from Joe Linton, and likewise with Nick Pope there. He's not had a lot to do in that second half, but what he had to deal with, he dealt with it really, really well, and it was a good save.
And let's remind ourselves how he was beaten in that first half. Guardiola's 5 goals at the end of last season in 7 games.
Arsenal game, and there's no width from a ManCity attacking point of view. Jack Grealish keeps the width on this side, Silva on the opposite side, does brilliant. Trippier jumps in, and then Dan Burn jumps in again. You'll see here at the bottom of the screen with Jack keeps his position.
And I think stand up, Shea. If he stands up to Grealish there, he doesn't go past him.
Yeah, but again, I think it's a bit of a heavy touch from Jack and sucks Trippier into to try and make the challenge. But again, it's when you make goals, always come sort of from mistakes. It's the first mistake from Trippier there, then it's played in now to Guardiola. Dan Burn makes the second mistake, and before you know it, Steve, it's in the back of the net, and it's really good for ManCity. But Eddie Howe will be looking at this after the game. We have to defend better on that occasion.
If he just stands up to Grealish, he doesn't go past him as easier. Defender, otherwise his team's in trouble. They're all over the place then because other players have got to get out of position because of his mistake. Dan Burn does exactly the same.
From Manchester City's point of view, they're still top at the moment. They're still unbeaten. But you felt without Rodri, they weren't quite their normal selves.
Just seemed a wee bit flat today, I felt. Obviously, De Bruyne was missing as well. And Foden's not started in the Premier League this season, so they're still not up to full speed, I don't think. Guardiola looked a bit frustrated on the sideline today. They didn't seem the Man City of old. We're normally sitting back watching this could be any scoreline, at any opposition because they're so good. But again, that news of Rodri as much as anything because he's so important. Even Rodri in the summer, when you see what he done for Spain, he was absolutely instrumental in them winning the Euros, So he's a big loss for them.
I think listening to Pep's language in terms of the way he talked and spoke about Newcastle and the ground and the atmosphere and how tough it is at St James's Park. That was he knew that without two of his big hitters in Rodri and in Kevin De Bruyne, going to St James's is always difficult anyway, even with those two. But without them, it was going to be a tough afternoon. And yeah, I didn't think they were great in what they did, but in terms you couldn't fault their effort, couldn't fault their determination. They didn't have as much spark as saying, and a lot of the fans have been saying, is before last weekend against Fulham, They were getting the results without playing particularly well, and all right, that should be a good sign. But then they didn't perform well last week, and they got nothing, deserved nothing last week. So you've got to see a response. And we hadn't seen the Newcastle in terms of overpowering teams, which is what Eddie and Newcastle did so well for his first and second year in there. We hadn't quite seen that this season yet. For the first time, I thought, other than 5 or 10 minute spells in other games, for long periods today, I thought it was much better.
Talking of the Newcastle United manager, let's hear from him. Here he is, Eddie Howe.
Well, Eddie, battling, but I suspect a bit more than that. You'll be very happy with that, I should think.
Yeah, we are happy, especially after last week. That was a good display. That was each other for probably 70 minutes. Last 20, I think they were stronger than us, and we had to defend really well to maintain the point.
Did you feel you could have got a bit more in the first half? You certainly got it in the second.
Yeah, I felt there was opportunities for us. I thought we gave them a problem early on in the game. We get into really good crossing areas. Probably didn't get enough bodies in the box from those crosses and enough goal-mouth action for the areas we got in. But I was really pleased with how we were attacked the game, how we were off the ball, on the ball. Yeah, I can't ask for much more than that. The lads gave everything.
And all that.
He's a happy boy.
He's happy, yeah, and Al spoke about, before the game as well, about saying they have to press City, they have to play in the front foot, and I was surprised they actually did that. But give Eddie credit for that as well. He's had the whole week. They've had no midweek football with the League Cup getting cancelled this week. They've had the full week to prepare. Did that, and he's right. Maybe they didn't commit bodies forward enough into the box, and that final pass or that final cross, maybe they lacked that in the first half especially. But he'll be really happy tonight with the point.
1-1 then at St James's Park. That news will have filtered through at the Emirates Stadium, where
they start really well the first minutes, and with the long balls behind, they are so, Murphy and Gordon and Barnes and Joelinton have the pace, and after the defense are so deep, like Joelinton has the ability to play forward and after central defender or win back. But we scored a fantastic goal. We had in that moment chances, especially to go 0-2, because we know that the other team, they create chances, but of course we had it, and after score a goal, they had the moment. 10 minutes we suffered a lot because with the crowd and everything, and we know how happy, celebrate the point, all of them, the crowd. But the last minutes, we were there again, recognized my team, and I just can congratulate it. It's still incredible pleasure, the body language and the way we behave and the way we played.
It was a midfield battle. How did you find your midfield performed?
Are you asking for Rodri?
I'm asking for whoever played today.
Okay, but you're the only one. I didn't ask me for Rodri today. That's good. So they were really good. Of course, the presence for Rodri is important, but unfortunately, until next season, will not be there. And Rico and a game that is so difficult, and Kova, they were magnificent. After, I would say Bernardo won't play there as well.
The goal from somebody different, although not really when we look back at last season. When you signed Josko Gvardiol, we all know what a great defender he is, but did you know he had that finishing ability?
No, absolutely not. In small space, he's really good, especially in the middle. Had the ability to turn, and the finishing is really, really good. But no, I didn't count. And
you nearly got a spectacular winner. Did you think it was in from Bernardo Silva?
The last moment? Yeah, we had, and Phil as well. Phil is really good, in that ball that Bernardo gave it to him, and unfortunately was in the middle. Paul making incredible save. In the ball go a little bit right left will be a score. But credit to Pope.
And one more thing to note, Erling Haaland, how's he? He seemed to take a lot of knocks, and he's got a nasty rip in his sock as well.
Yeah, Premier League.